Hi there, I'm Nakita.
Hi, I'm Jade.
And together we are...
You
just say it. Okay, go. Or should we have a snap? Have a snap. Okay, cool.
Hi, I'm Jade and this is Nakita. We're from Virtuous Mums, and today we are just going to do a little intro so you can get to know us a little bit, and we're going to talk to you about our podcast that we're going to start.
Yep. So our podcast is called Let's Talk About Motherhood. Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, exactly. So a bit about me. I am 31. I'm from South London. I just recently had a little baby boy called Ziggy, who is now 7 months old.
And I'm 31 as well, almost 32. And I have a 4-year-old called Ray from South London as well.
So I don't know how many of you have been following Virtuous Mums, but basically it's just sort of an online community that we started where mums can sort of get together and just make friends, basically discuss different tips, get some advice, meet each other. We all know that motherhood can be very alienating, so it's just good to have a space where we can just be really honest about our lives.
Yeah, really. And I think it was just a really good time to do it. Obviously we just had lockdown and you know, it made mums feel quite alienated, especially Jade had a baby during lockdown.
I think it particularly stemmed from the fact that, well, for me anyway, I just had a new baby, so obviously the whole motherhood thing was very, very new to me, and I have to say I was completely overwhelmed by becoming a mum, and especially during the pandemic it was so alienating, and I was literally by myself with this newborn baby, obviously, and my partner as well, but by myself with this newborn baby. Nobody could come in. I didn't want anyone to come in as well because I was terrified of COVID. Obviously, it's such a massive change, and I didn't feel like I had anyone around me going through what I was going through at the time. So I feel like it's so important, especially at that stage of being a mum, that you have like people around you that you can talk to about things,
and almost just be real, like be yourself and say things you're struggling with, because I think a lot of us mums, we give ourselves such a hard time silently behind closed doors, and to just have a space where you're open and just be able to just share these things and just advice and the highs and the lows, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so basically how me and Nakita came about with this, we've been friends for years, and I was just sort of talking about how I was feeling in my motherhood journey, and then we decided that we would sort of come up with this together, because obviously Nakita comes from her own has her own reasons for wanting to do this, and we just sort of came together and thought, yeah, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think that at the lockdown as well, like obviously Jade has is he 7 months now?
Yeah,
7 month old, and I have a 4.5-year-old, and the lockdown for me was, you know, quite similar. I had a 4.5-year-old that was used to doing so much more things socially and being around friends, and school was closed, and I kind of felt really shut off from the world too. And I'm a single mum, so I was just at home with my 4-year-old, and I felt like when Jade brought this to me, I was like, yeah, like it'd be beneficial to have a kind of a community where there's just mums that you can meet, like mums that you wouldn't like naturally bump into, that you just have a kind of space. And we also have a WhatsApp group.
Oh yeah.
Which is really cool. So like, yeah, we have a WhatsApp space where all the mums can just, I mean, there's a lot of advice in there, isn't there? Like if someone doesn't know what to do.
It's just someone to talk to, basically, if you have a question. It could be anything. Like the other day I had a question because Ziggy, we just started weaning, and he hadn't pooed for like 6 days, and I was like, he hasn't pooed for 6 days. Yeah. Is that normal? Like,
and all the mums chimed in with their own experiences.
Her with the stick of cotton bud up his
bum, which didn't work, did it? Yeah. See, that's what I mean, and that's the beauty of it. Like that really worked for Ray. I was like, that's gonna work, but it didn't. And it's kind of just an open space where you respect that everyone's journey is different, and it's not going to be the same as yours, but we're just there for support and for fun, really, as well.
Yeah, because things that I've noticed as well is that everybody has an opinion of everything that you're doing. Like, not to be disrespectful to elders or anything like that, but like older mums that are just like, oh, we never did this in our day, we did this, blah, 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 you should do it like this, and da, da, da. And I'm just like...
They do it without thinking. And do you know what? I'm guilty of it. Like, you kind of just overload people with your own experience. You just say, this is how you do it, because that's what worked for you. But yeah, it's just important that I think that it kind of grounds you having this space as well, because it reminds you that like not everyone's experience is the same.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. So basically, that's the point of Virtuous Mums. The podcast today, we're going to be talking about what they don't tell you about motherhood.
Yeah. So we're going to go right from the beginning, right?
What should we start with?
So
pregnancy.
Yeah, pregnancy. I mean, this is a long time for me. This is 4 years. So
let's hear about your pregnancy.
Okay. My pregnancy was pretty straightforward. The only thing that I felt like I had no warning for whatsoever was the fact that there's this thing, and I can't actually remember what it's called. I'll look at my phone in a minute, or I'll put it at the bottom. But it's basically where you get like a strain on your pelvic bone muscles and all the kind of tendons that hold it together from the weight of the baby. And about 5 months into my pregnancy, I just went to get out of bed and I felt like my vagina had literally split open. And yeah, I was on the floor and I was like, it was awful.
5 months?
Yeah, 5 months. And I went to the hospital and they were like, oh yeah, you've got such and such. Like it was the most normal thing to have. And they basically said that the weight, where I was quite small, the weight of my baby was basically just ripping all the tendons that hold your pelvic together. Yeah, so as the baby eventually, as it gets like closer to, you having the baby and the baby drops, it's like agony. So I had to wear like a brace underneath my baby, which held the bump up throughout my whole pregnancy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Well, apparently it's really common, so yeah. It was insane. And every single time I would get out of bed or go to open my legs, it would be like this ripping pain, like which would just feel like my vagina was ripping open. But it was just all the muscles and tendons, it was crazy.
Oh.
So they didn't tell me that about, and also how much blood tests you have to have, or did you not have that many?
I had so many blood tests. I had so many. My pregnancy, I was not prepared for either because I used to faint every day in my pregnancy.
Ooh.
Because for some unknown reason that we never discovered, hence all the blood tests.
Yeah.
I had additional blood tests because I had to work out if there was something wrong with me. After breakfast, after I eat my breakfast, after about an hour, I would have to lie down for about another hour, otherwise I would faint. And there's been times when I've been sitting in the cab, like I've been in a cab, for example, and I'd have to open all the windows and lie down in the cab. And obviously this is during a pandemic as well, so the cab driver's probably thinking, what the hell is going on with this girl in the back of my car? And I'm like lying there.
Yeah. And that's the thing about pregnancy, is that they don't tell you anything. It's so much can happen, and there's just, I guess that because so much can happen, they can't tell you everything.
It's so weird though, because I had like this whole ideal in my head of what I thought pregnancy was. And the thing is, when I think about it now, I actually didn't give pregnancy a proper thought before I was pregnant.
Neither.
Like, you're like, oh yeah, pregnant, having a baby, I get what it is, but I didn't actually think about being pregnant. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like being pregnant.
You didn't, did you?
No, I didn't.
Controversial
subject, because some people are like, oh my god, it's amazing being pregnant.
I really missed my bump. That's something they don't tell you, or maybe they do, but I really missed my bump. You didn't, right? Like when I
mean, the bump itself was fine. It was just, I don't know. It was too heavy. It was too heavy. I just felt weighed down. I just felt like I just couldn't do the things that I would normally do. Like, I don't know. I didn't have a bad pregnancy. I didn't have a high risk pregnancy or anything. Well, saying that, I'm pretty sure I had gestational diabetes and they didn't find out. But that's a whole other conversation.
I'm about to ask questions, but another time.
I mean, it's long to get into it.
Okay.
But I didn't necessarily have a bad pregnancy. I just didn't enjoy being pregnant.
Do you think that was because, like, of everything you had to give up? Or was it actual physical things you weren't enjoying?
No, because I was pregnant during lockdown, so I
you
couldn't do anything anyway. So.
Okay, one thing I didn't enjoy, like when you were talking about the feelings, is like the sickness that I felt, even though I never had, morning sickness, you think you're going to be sick and it's done. First of all, morning sickness isn't just in the morning. For me, it wasn't. And it would be like I wouldn't even get the relief of throwing up. I would just be like, feel sick, like all day.
It was like nausea, right?
Yeah.
Were you actually sick? Or was it just like,
I thought you, like in the films, you throw up and then you do that and then you're done. And I just felt sick all the time. And did you sleep all day?
I didn't sleep all day. To be honest, I didn't sleep very well at all whilst I was pregnant.
I couldn't leave the room.
In the first 3 months.
Yes.
No, in the first 3 months.
What is that?
Oh my god,
Why
I was
don't they
so tired.
listen?
I was so
I didn't know I was
tired
pregnant for the
all
first 2 months,
time.
yeah. So I was just in bed 24/7, just like sleeping for hours.
It's exhausting.
What is that?
No, 100%. I remember I was on a shoot as well, and I was styling. I had suitcases and stuff, and I was like semi-asleep on the shoot as well. I was sitting down like I cannot do.
Honestly, that tiredness that you feel, there's nothing like it in the first couple of months. Like you just have to sleep. So yeah, all right, but giving birth, I had a C-section, so.
Giving birth.
Tell us some things that what's some things that kind of stick out to you?
Well, I was terrified about giving birth because who wouldn't be terrified about giving birth? I couldn't work out how the hell this child was going to come out of my vagina. I just... Anyway, I ended up being induced, which I was even more scared about because there's all these horror stories about induction and how they
I
last
don't
for
know
like
what that
3
means.
days.
When people say induced, do they inject you with something? I don't know what
so
it
when
is.
you're induced, basically, they give you a pessary.
Okay, yeah.
So you know when you they check to see if you're dilated. Do you remember what that feels like?
I did experience this. I had a C-section planned.
Wait, hold on. You don't know. You don't. Oh my god.
I've never
You're
ever.
so
My vagina
lucky.
had nothing to do with my birth. Like my vagina was nothing to do with it.
Oh yeah. So after being induced, it was fine, and then it was actually alright to be honest. But
The birth.
no.
Oh.
The pessary was alright.
Okay.
Then I started going into labour. My labour was quite a long time. It was about 3 days because even though you get pains when you get the pessary, but it's just like period pains.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had to go to sleep and stuff.
So was it bearable
well.
at first, the contractions?
Yeah,
Because I've
I mean-
never had a contraction.
You haven't even had a contraction.
I've never had a contraction. I had a plan. I knew 2 weeks before the date she was going to be born. So it was all the fun was taken out of it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Vagina
Do
had
you want to
nothing
hear
to
something crazy about my labour? Sorry.
Well, yeah, tell me.
When I was in labour, so I was in the pool. Right, when you're in
Did you
labour.
have a birth? What?
No, I did not have a water birth. That's a whole other thing. Like the pool can affect whether you progress. So I was in the pool for hours and then I didn't get any more dilated. So I ended up having to get the hormone drop. Hormone drop?
Wouldn't know.
Whatever it's called, and an epidural, which I did not want.
I had epidural.
I didn't want that. Anyway, when I was in the pool, obviously at this point I'm high on gas and air, and my contractions are coming in strong because I've been in labour for about 10 hours already, and I'm talking about active labour. I'm not talking about up to the 4 centimetres. I'm like 5-6 centimetres.
So you're in pain right now?
Yes, I'm in pain on the gas and air, talking shit. Anyway, one of the doctors came in and was like, "Oh, do you mind if I bring in if a student comes in?" And I'm thinking, you don't think? Well, I'm not thinking. That's the thing. I'm not thinking. I'm literally in serious pain, high on gas and air, in the pool, stark naked. Anyway, next thing you know, there's like 5 people standing over me while I'm lying in the pool.
What? And they didn't tell you all 5 were going to come in?
To be honest, I have no idea what they told me because I was not paying attention.
They may have said it.
Yeah, but it's out of order. Because I'm completely out of it. I've been in labour for days at this point.
That's actually pretty awful.
I've been in labour for days. I'm exhausted. When you get induced, you cannot eat either. You are not allowed to eat in case you get a C-section.
Till the baby comes?
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah, 'cause
you're
I
at
wasn't
higher
allowed to
risk
eat.
of having a C-section. when you're
Yeah, and then
induced.
they've got to cut through all that.
Yeah, so I was not allowed to eat anything. So I'm literally off my rocker at this point, and they've just brought in 5 people, and they're just standing
Tell me that you
over
told
me
them to get out of the
taking
room.
notes.
Did you tell them to leave?
No.
I would have.
You say that, but when you're in the
it's true.
moment, you're just not even thinking about that. Only afterwards, when I thought, they've taken the piss.
Oh my god. They actually were like, do you know what? She's so high on gas and air, let's ask her.
Yeah, like, honestly, next time, if there's next time,
Yeah.
I'm not letting anyone in the room. Like, I'm not having that. I feel like that was a little bit of a piss take.
But the actual birth was fine.
I mean, the birth was fine. It wasn't traumatic.
Did you
it wasn't
tear?
nice.
Did you
It was
have any,
horrible.
like-
I was cut. Peasy.
Do they ask you to be cut? Or
No.
they just cut you? There's no permission slip?
No.
So they just cut you, just know you're being cut?
I mean, they just say, we're going to have to cut you. Cut you. I didn't feel it though, because I had an epidural.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to have an epidural, but they basically told me I don't have a choice and I have to have an epidural, so I had the epidural. which I'm actually, in hindsight, quite grateful for, because it all went well.
What made you not want the epidural? Because you
I
were
was scared.
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to go wrong. And also, I wasn't able to keep still. And they're like, you have to keep still for 20 minutes in order to get the epidural. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, because you
I
were
cannot keep still. I was moving around, wiggling everywhere. I'm like 7 centimetres, 6 centimetres dilated at this point. I can't keep still.
Yeah.
Obviously, you do keep still because your
They
whole
told
life
you
depends
to.
on it. So, but yeah, I had the epidural, so I didn't feel the cut and I didn't feel the stitches. Thank fucking God, because the stitches took about 15 minutes.
What? So you're holding your baby and then you know they're down there just stitching you up?
I wasn't holding my baby. We had to get. I had fever, so me and him both had to have antibiotics. So he had to go to neonatal.
Well, that's what they don't tell you.
And get he had to go to neonatal and get a canister put in. Bless him. So.
That must have been terrifying, like having your baby taken into another room.
To be honest, I was completely out of it. Like, I was so exhausted. My iron must have dipped so low because I was nearly fainting after birth. I was like, I held him.
It's crazy how you can just have such different experience. Like, so for instance, for me, Ray, first of all, she was being monitored every 4 weeks because I stupidly went to Thailand the first month she was born, and there was this like illness going around where it was like affecting the growth of their skulls, so she had to be like checked for every like 4 weeks. And then when I was like maybe like 20, wait, how many weeks is pregnancy? 40. When I was 37 weeks, so at 3 weeks, she had never turned, so her head was always up. And they were saying like a few months like before I gave birth that she'll turn soon, and then when she didn't, they offered me to have a sweep, which is where they like put. I don't really know how it works because I just said no. And then it was like the easiest thing. They were just like, okay, we're going to give you a C-section then. And I was like, okay. And they obviously said it, if by the time I go to the C-section, if she's turned, they won't. But they basically told me 2 weeks before that she's going to be born on the 21st of September, so I knew her birthday.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Our babies were born on the same day, how weird.
Isn't that weird? Like 4 years apart, and then they give you like an epidural as well. And this is what they don't tell you about C-sections. There's like 12, maybe like, no, not 12, that's a lie. There's probably like 8 people in the room, just kind of all doing different, like on a computer monitoring you, because they're literally cutting through layers and layers and layers of different things. You don't even realise how dangerous. I opted for this, and I probably shouldn't have. Like, it's actually really dangerous to have a C-section. So you've got people like just constantly monitoring you. You've got things like strapped up to you, and then you've got like 4 people down there. One who's just constantly talking to you here, and then you can hear it like, and you're just like, oh my goodness. Then
wait, you're conscious?
Completely conscious. They literally just put something up in front of you here, and you know that they're cutting you. You see like the bloody scissors and stuff, and and you're just thinking, this is weird. Then, when their hands are inside you, even though you're numb, because they're moving your organs around to pull the baby out and then to cut the next layer, it feels like you've got someone inside of you just going like, just moving your organs around, like you can feel things coming up here, and you're just like, it's terrifying.
Oh my God.
Then they say, right, we've got to the baby now, we can see the baby, and you're like, okay, and they're like, we're going to pull it out now, are you ready? And we're like, okay. They pull it, and because you're numb, you can kind of just feel like all your organs are kind of falling back into place. And then they go, do you want to see it? And they just lift it above the sheet, and you're just like, oh, and covered in blood, and you're just like, wow, yeah. So C-sections are really, and then they stitch you up with the baby, like they gave me Ray. They're stitching you up for like 20 minutes, so you're just sat there like.
Why does a C-section stitch up take as long as?
I don't know. Because, you know why? Probably because they care that to make your vagina look great again. Is the vagina tighter afterwards? Apparently it is. Okay, no, that's if it's an internal stitch. My friend said her vagina was the best it's ever been after she was cut inside, because she was like stitched tighter.
Mine was cut at the side. It wasn't inside. It was like. Yeah. So yeah, give birth. Oh, can I just say something else that no one warned me about as well?
Yeah, go on.
You're so lucky that you did. As much as the C-section actually does sound
awful,
pretty horrendous, there's so many things that you didn't have to experience.
I know. After
giving birth, my bum got a tear in it, so it's called an anal fissure.
You can get those from large poo, so imagine that from a baby.
No. Oh, I've never felt anything like this. This is having this was literally like giving birth every time I went to the toilet. Like, it literally, every time I went to the toilet, it burned. It was like someone was holding a fire on my butthole. I swear to God. I'm not even joking.
That's why when you...
I cried on the toilet. I cried. This has got nothing to do with my stitches or my vagina. That's just my bum. This is just my bum hole. Apparently, when you give birth, because you push and strain so hard when you're giving birth, you can tear your bum hole. So aside from tearing my vagina or cutting my vagina or everything that happened to that, I also tore my bum hole. And not only was the pain of going to the toilet so damn painful, afterwards, like, so you'd go to the toilet and it would burn for like half an hour, then the pain would ease, and then as the day went on, in like another 2 hours, the pain would come back, and then you would get this long pain that would last for like 2 days where you weren't able to sit down because your bum was so sore. Like, I literally had to take ibuprofen.
How does that heal though? You can't pee all the time.
So basically, I had to have fibre gel to make my poos like basically like liquid. Yeah. So that it just.
And did that work?
It did. Okay. It did work. But 7 months later, this happened again.
Well, you got another tear.
Yes.
Well, is it the same place?
Yes. It's not as bad this time, but.
I won't. I might cut this out. I'm not gonna lie, but I've cut mine too, just from going to the toilet. Like, that's small, and it can come every now and again. And I'm just like, so imagine that. That's just like, yeah, that's awful. I think I'd always take something to soften my poo.
I mean, I was drinking prune juice, but it's not enough.
Did the peeing hurt after your stitches?
So I was scared about going to the toilet after my stitches. So what you do is you just get a water.
Yeah, and pour it yourself.
Yeah, that's what I did. I actually didn't have any problems.
My friends just got in the shower every time she was doing.
I didn't have any problems with my stitches or anything like that. Like, it wasn't. I think they stitched them up really well, to be fair. And I only had like I think I only had one stitch. I don't know why it took so damn long to stitch it up, but I think I only had one stitch. But it actually wasn't that bad. I was prepared for everything, like not being able to walk. And I couldn't walk very well, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't because of my stitches, it was just because when you give birth...
I couldn't walk properly after that. I was at a C-section. I was like, why couldn't I? I was like, I couldn't either.
Obviously. But also, it just takes everything out of it. I don't know if it's the same as a C-section.
One more thing as well, before we move on to the first 6 weeks, is that they put a cannula, is that what it's called? Anyway, they put something up my vagina, up my pee hole. Yeah, cannula, I think it's called.
I had one of those.
Yeah.
Help me pee.
Yeah, so I had to have that because I was having a C-section. So if you have a C-section, you have to have it during the thing. When they removed that, they don't remove it for like, you don't pee for a couple of days after a C-section. I don't know with you guys, but you can't pee.
Oh, they didn't remove it straight away?
No!
Because I had that and they removed it after basically
2 days.
after birth. I was still numb, I still had the epidural.
2 days, and then they come. When I think everything's kind of dying down and they came to remove it, that was the most pain I felt during my whole pregnancy, because I don't even know to call it pain, but it was disgusting, like when they pulled it out.
Did you find that the epidural hurt?
No, and everyone says it's. Did it hurt you? I didn't even feel it.
I was in so much pain, I didn't really... I felt it, but not... No.
I've spoken to a few mums who say it's agonizing. Like, I don't know if it's just other people don't do it as good, but I didn't feel mine. I think I felt like a little sharp scratch. I think that they injected me to numb me.
Yeah, I think they. Yeah, they did the same. They numbed me first and then did that.
Yeah, so it probably does.
So I got the scratch of the epidural.
So
I didn't actually.
Yeah, so if there's a mum out there who didn't have that, sorry, it probably does hurt, because they're literally shoving a needle in your spine, aren't they?
Yeah, but I'm sure that everybody gets numbed.
But I've heard people that it's agony. Do you know? I think when we were born, I don't think they numbed us. I think our mums felt the pain of it. But we'll have to check that. But yeah, all right, cool. So that's anything else they don't tell you about birth. I mean, there's probably so much things.
So much.
Yeah. Those are a few things to go with. First 6 weeks, I was by myself. So when you have a C-section, it's really important that you have someone there for you, because I basically re-ripped my stitches by driving, getting up, picking. Even one time, she just started crying, and like automatically I went to stretch and grab her, and
How long were your stitches healing?
That's a good weeks. Yeah.
So like for the first 6 weeks, basically.
Yeah.
I guess actually it's the same, because with your episiotomy they say 6 weeks.
Yeah, it must have been like 6 weeks. Yeah. But I remember like feeling like the first 2 weeks was very tender, But I felt fine. Like, I felt like mobile. No, do you know what? Sitting up, no, I couldn't do that for the first couple of weeks. But yeah, after that, up until the first 6 weeks, I actually was fine. Because I remember just kind of driving around with her and being fine.
So how are you managing with a newborn baby on your own?
Yeah.
And stitches and getting up, moving around, all of that stuff?
The only thing I can say is the excitement of being a mum. So I was quite blessed the fact that I wasn't suffering with like postnatal depression. Like I was so happy.
Right.
Yeah, and that's all it is. I was so happy to be a mum that I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh my god, and I was taking pictures and I was putting her in outfits, and like I was just so excited to be a mum that it just didn't bother me.
That's so crazy. I did not feel that excitement to be a mum.
Really?
Like I don't know what I was expecting when I was going to be a mum. I think I just found the whole thing very, very overwhelming, because never in my life have I had to work so hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like this, being given this baby. First of all, I was just like, this is just unbelievable. I can't believe this is my child. It's growing inside my stomach.
Yeah, you don't get over that for a while, do you?
I was just staring at this baby. I was on edge all the friggin' time, checking if he was breathing. I used to count how many breaths he did in a minute to make sure he was breathing the right amount of breaths in a minute. I would always check his temperature. I didn't want to overheat him. Like, I was on edge all the time. On top of that, he was sucking the life out of me. I was literally, breastfeeding.
Probably meant like emotionally.
No, breastfeeding. Literally. Literally sucking the life out of me, because we struggled, but we'll talk about that afterwards. And I just sat on the sofa all day, basically, for the first 6 weeks.
Oh yeah.
I literally sat on the sofa.
That just brought back a memory to me.
And drinking on me.
And I think we were quite similar. Like, we didn't put our babies down, did we? Or did you? Like, Ray was just, whenever she's ready to sleep, I was just sleep on the sofa.
No, he would sleep on me.
Yeah.
I did try and put him down sometimes. He would sleep in the sleepy head a little bit, but he only slept for like a couple of hours, because at that age they don't sleep for that long, and then they want feeding.
Yeah, they feed a lot.
To be honest, I remember it being very, very overwhelming, and like I definitely cried a couple times. I was definitely like to Barry, Zig's dad, like, can you just take him away?
Yeah.
There was a time where I was like, I just need you to take him out of the house, because if he's around me, he can smell the milk. It's like they can smell the milk, and all they want is you.
Like
they just
milk
start crying.
vampires.
Yeah, and I was just like, I just need a minute, just so I can just sit and, I don't know, have a bath.
Do you know what? I won't lie, actually. I do remember one time she was like, you know when they do that thing where they like tackle to drink from your boob and they're like little gremlins on your breast? And I was so tired. I remember thinking just like, I don't want to do this anymore. No. Do you love that?
Yes,
you know when they're like,
so cute.
Okay, but I was exhausted. I remember just looking at my boob like, yeah. And then they get on it and it's like, it's almost, I think what it was is when your breast becomes theirs, it was like, it's her breast now.
Yeah.
And I just had that feeling like, I'm my own, but I'm clearly not. And I was just like, I was just for her. And I just remember being like, get off me.
I think that I struggled with that as well in the beginning, because I feel like even though you've got this baby, I just felt like such an, like, so unnecessary as a person. I was literally just here to cater for the baby, and there was no me time. 7 months on, I have to say, I still feel like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just adjusting to it now.
I mean, the sacrifice that mums give is not spoken about enough. Even though it is, but it's like the internal sacrifice. Like, you do lose your identity. You're just there to make this baby survive.
And that is a lot to take on in the first few weeks of their life. Like, especially with everything else that's going on as well. I think that's why you said you were really happy to be a mum. For me, I just felt like, oh my god, this is, I don't know, this is not what I expected. I love children.
Yeah.
I love babies. Obviously, I love my baby. He's the best thing in the world. But there's nothing that prepared me for being a mum.
Yeah. And I think like the 2 points as well that I just thought that came to mind is that for me, the reason I was so happy to be a mum was because I had done pregnancy by myself. I was lonely and bored. So it was finally like, okay, there's another person there. So that's what kind of helped. But I also think that people don't realise that pregnancy is easy in the sense of like, you can still have your identity. You're carrying the baby around everywhere you go. There's a baby in your belly. But as soon as the baby's born, it's a whole new game. It's like you can't just jump in the car and go and pop to the shops anymore. Like when you would carry your baby in your belly, you have to literally go, oh my god, what are you wearing? I've got to wrap you up. Have you eaten? It's the thing as well, because they eat so often, like we both breastfed, but even if you bottle feed, it's like actually having to think about the next however many hours of what you're going to do.
Do you know what else it is as well? It's the exhaustion. There's so many things that are tied into the first 6 weeks. Like, first of all, no sleep. This is a whole new level of exhaustion that I've never experienced. I'm the kind of person that sleeps 8 hours every night, no problems. And then this happened and I was just like, whoa. And then on top of that, you're still sort of like recovering from the delivery of the baby. Like for you, obviously it must have been even worse because you've got stitches.
I think
like,
equally because,
I mean, I had stitches, but it was one stitch and it was, I couldn't sit down for a couple of days.
But does your body feel exhausted from or is it just kind of go back to normal?
My body did feel exhausted, but I was in hospital for 4 days.
Yeah.
That's because Ziggy was in neonatal because he had low blood sugar levels, so he had to be kept in. And also my iron really dropped, so I had to have an iron transfusion and all of this stuff. But after I got out of hospital, I wasn't as bad. Like on day 5, I could go for a walk.
Kind of bounce back.
I was alright. Yeah. It was just more the tiredness and the. Do you know what I did struggle with as well? Eating and drinking. I didn't eat or drink enough.
Neither did I, but do you think that was because of a physical change, or do you think you didn't have time to care for yourself? Because I just had no time.
No, I didn't have time.
Yeah.
I didn't have time.
We actually did a post on that, just like things that you can do for mums, because like I didn't eat at all. I lost so much weight after I had my daughter because it was just, and you need to eat because you're giving, especially when you breastfeed, you're giving all your nutrients away, and like it's almost impossible to find the time to cook yourself a meal.
Oh God, we didn't cook. No, we had delivery. I wasn't on my own though, so it was a bit different. So Barry would like clean the house and like get the food and stuff. I would literally just sit there on the sofa like this in front of the TV with Ziggy.
Yeah.
And then sleep. And then cry.
So so you kind of tag teamed with that though, because there's still a lot to do, like the emotional. That's a lot that you're doing as well. Even the fact that I almost feel jealous that he could walk out. I'd rather clean. I'd rather do the cooking.
I'm sorry, I still feel like that sometimes now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I know that it sounds like she's got but no.
I sometimes feel like you don't even understand how much responsibility lies on you, like as a mother. Like the dads will never understand that, how much the responsibility falls on you. Like my whole life revolves around Ziggy, no matter what I do.
Yeah.
If I leave the house, I'm still planning my life around Ziggy. Barry, if he goes to work, he just goes to work. That's it.
I don't know how it happens. It must just be I don't know how it happens, but it's true.
But they don't think like us. Like, for example, if I was to just hand Ziggy over to his dad now at like 10 o'clock without telling him you need to feed him at 11 o'clock and this is what he's going to eat and all of this stuff, he probably just wouldn't feed him, and it would get to like 1 o'clock and he'd be like, oh shit, I didn't feed him.
Yeah. So exactly. So yeah, I that's a point I wanted to make. As long as even though you're sitting on the sofa, like there's so much that you're just your mind doesn't stop from your kid, does it?
No.
That's kind of.
It's so overwhelming. Those first 6 weeks are so overwhelming. Like I was stressed. I remember like speaking, because you know how you get the midwives come and they check on you and they like, I was on for longer care for 4 weeks because I do struggle with anxiety. But they were like, oh, you need to, talk to somebody if you feel like you have postnatal depression or if it's developing into that. And I was just like, I don't know if I do. I don't think I have postnatal depression, but I do feel I am struggling. Like it's a different kind of. I don't know how to explain it because I didn't feel like uncontrollably low, and I didn't have any like negative feelings towards my baby or. Those
kind of key things that come
like what, the textbook postnatal depression stuff.
But I think that's the thing. Like, when you're feeling so tired and you're hungry and you're all these things, it's hard to not to like. I ask myself, am I depressed? Like, am I suffering? Because you're feeling so many things you're not used to feeling. So you're like, is it that? But I think.
But then also like. You've just had a baby, so your body has just gone through like the most changes that's probably ever going to happen. So. Granted, you're going to be feeling something, do you know what I mean? Because your hormones are going wild. So, I mean, it's just so much to think about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did find the first 6 weeks quite difficult because I feel like there's a lot of like people talk about their experiences with a new baby and how when the baby was born they just feel this overwhelming feeling of love and like they're just so happy and blah blah blah, and I just was like, I didn't really feel like that, and I kind of made me feel a bit guilty because it just was like, am I a bad mum for not feeling like that?
Yeah.
It's not because I don't love my child, like I do. It's a different kind of feeling. I
absolutely agree with you.
Kind of
that unconditional love that I know so many mums experience, I also know so many don't, because I genuinely didn't. When they lifted Ray up from the curtain, yes, I was like, oh great, that's my kid, but I didn't feel that burst of that love that I've never felt before. It didn't hit me.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty too. I knew I wanted to, I had a protective instinct.
That's what I had a major protective instinct.
And I knew I had to look after her.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like you're
I don't know how to explain it, but it's like people are like, oh, you just get this overwhelming thing of love, and it's just like,
I think I'm very proud, and that's what I mean. So the first 6 weeks, oh my god, the photos I took, and I took her to go get her first, like a proper professional photos and all that type of stuff. Yeah,
I wish I did that.
Yeah, I did all those things and like handprint and stuff. So I did enjoy it, and I feel like there's so much positives that come with it, especially in the first 6 weeks. So like the first bath.
Yeah.
It's nice to do those things.
Mate, the first bath, when I bathed Siggy, I feel so bad, and I still feel guilty to this day. It was too cold.
Oh, or I thought about to say too hot. I was like, say it.
It was too cold, and he screamed, and I took pictures because I thought it was funny, because I thought he just didn't like the bath.
Oh, so the water was too cold. You meant to test your elbow, right?
It wasn't because he didn't like the bath, it's because I put him in a cold bath.
But how do you know?
A little thing, he was only about this big, and he's all red.
How old was he when you first bathed him?
I think about 10 days.
Yeah, same, okay, good. I was thinking I should have done this earlier, but yeah. So, yeah.
So, oh God, honestly, I could go on and on for the first 6 weeks. It's never ending, these things.
And I think it's just so unique to everyone. There's going to be things that we say that you're like, I didn't experience that. There's going to be things that we miss. But I just think it's important to say that motherhood is so unique that there's no point in comparing yourself to someone else. It's just about having a journey and having a community together.
Do you know what I think is crazy though? The crazy thing is that why are these things just not more openly discussed? Like, we're talking about it now, and like we've probably said it to other people that have been in the same situation as us.
Yeah.
It's easy to talk about it once you've been through it, but what about the people that haven't been in that situation? Why was I not aware of all of these things before the baby was born?
Because I don't think that when you're not a mum, I don't think that you care to ask mums. I think it's the people that aren't mums. Like, as in, like, when you're a mum, you would give that information. But when you're not a mum, or you're not planning to have a mum. Like when I was 25 and I was not going to have a baby, I'm not going to sit there and ask them, oh, you got a baby, you're a mum now. I'm not going to go up to them and say, how was it? What did you struggle with? And I think that's where it's missing.
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily about asking, how was it, what do you struggle with? I think it's more about information that's readily available for people, because some things are like really hush and like, don't talk about that or don't talk about that. And like, when it comes to being a mum, there's so many opinions of how you should be feeling, how you should be acting, what does that mean, what does this mean, So like, I think, I don't know, like I said, with the overwhelming love situation, like, why did I feel guilty for not feeling that?
Yeah, because I guess the narrative that you hear is that you do feel that.
Exactly, it's like, now I feel guilty. But then also, I've seen a lot nowadays where people are being much more honest about their experience, for early experiences, and saying, do you know what, it's not what I thought it was going to be. I did struggle, I did feel low. And then other mums coming around saying, yeah, I love it, it's great, everything's perfect, and sort of being criticised for it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily criticised, but like...
It's called the Pinterest mum, isn't it? The one who's perfect.
Yeah.
You kind of think, are you? Or...
Because like, like I said, it's different for everybody.
I think that we're in a time where we're actually quite lucky that we're having more of these open conversations, because when our parents had us, it's like postnatal depression, I don't think they spoke about it. And I think there's different forms of postnatal depression. I think that, like, as well, you either think that you've got it full blown or you're perfect, but there's an in between. There's things that come with being exhausted. There's like, you can just have times where you feel low, and I think that just having feelings of being low and having to raise a child is something that kind of needs to be nurtured as well, and like make sure that they're okay, because it's like, you don't have to be full blown depressed, do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to struggle if I'm feeling low, if I'm tired. You know, I think you should be able to say I'm exhausted and I'm struggling, you know?
I agree. Anyway, I think we should probably wrap this up now.
Yeah,
because we've been talking for ages, but we're going to be doing more of these podcasts anyway, so we'll have another one. We're going to do part 2 of this because obviously there's so many things of what they don't tell you about motherhood.
We're going to get a guest on.
We'll get a guest on, so well, are we going to get one, or are we going to get... We might get a couple of guests on, so either we might get somebody from the VM community, so if you are interested, you guys should just hit us up anyway. Because obviously this is going to be an ongoing thing and we'd love to have more of the VM community involved in our podcast, so please do just drop us a DM. And
this is more for this is not just about us two speaking to you guys. We're trying to build a community here where mums can kind of see each other's faces and just come on and just talk. Like, we have a WhatsApp group, but we can, you know, come on our podcast. We just want to hear
everyone's experiences as well. Like we said, everyone goes through completely different experiences. So the more we can hear, the better. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, just hit us up in the DMs, and we'll go from there. Anyway, thanks for listening to us.
Bye.